welcome everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. And welcome to Alignable Small Business Essential Series. And in this series, we cover topics that we have heard our over 9 million members want to learn more about. And we bring in experts like Chris to help our members understand the latest ways to grow their business. For those that don't know me, I'm Randy Penfield from Alignable. I have the pleasure of hosting today's event. SEO, website audit, how to boost your rankings and conversions. So why are we presenting on this today? Well, many of our members have shared how important it is for them to understand how to really ensure they are appearing when someone is searching, not for their business by their name, but for their services, products, and how can they improve their rankings, meaning moving up on a search engine results page. So that's why we have Chris Burns here, owner of Marketing Movement, joining us today. Now, a little bit about Chris before I pass it over to him. As I mentioned, he's owner of Marketing Movement. He is a serial entrepreneur at heart, a twice published author, a keynote speaker, and adjunct professor with a deep passion for digital marketing. With over 20 years in the marketing industry, Chris has had the privilege of really helping hundreds of businesses, including his own, to thrive by embracing digital marketing. His approach has always been about helping businesses shine in their uniqueness, steering them away from the mundane and into the spotlight. His goal with most things is to make it so it's easy and it's fun again. And it's so easy that you'll have no excuses on why you should be doing it. So, and Chris is a wealth of information. Now, before we begin, a couple things that I want to go over. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to man the chat. Chat is disabled for attendees, so you cannot use the chat. Any questions that you have, throw them into the Q&A. I'll share them with Chris after his presentation. And Chris is going to present for about 35 minutes, give or take, and then we'll go into the Q&A. Tomorrow, you're going to receive an email, and I might even be able to get it out later today with a link to the recording, as well as all of the links that I mentioned during the webinar. I do want to point out that there is a banner at the top of everybody's screen. That is a link to Chris's masterclass. Now, I want to mention, because people are going to say, well, what's a masterclass? So Chris is going to do a deep dive into SEO. He's going to talk more about strategies, how you can utilize it in a small group. So he's going to go even deeper than what he's doing today with everybody. There is a charge for it, but trust me, registering for it is well worth that small charge. I mean, you would pay somebody a lot more to do your SEO. And as a small business, it is always beneficial to have a better understanding of what somebody might be doing that you hire. And this masterclass, as I mentioned, deep dive into what Chris is discussing today, small group, 30 or less, your cameras are going to be on, you'll have access to Chris sharing lots of tips and tricks on SEO during that webinar, 75 minutes online. It will sell out. Our masterclasses sell out. So if you're thinking of this, of doing it, click that link at any time and you can register. Chris is going to go through the presentation. Chris, you've got the presentation up. I am going to mute, turn off my camera. I'll come back on at the end. And again, as you have questions, throw it into the Q&A. Chris, it's all yours.
All right. Well, thank you, Randy, and thank you, Alignable. I appreciate all of you for coming today and spending about a half hour, 45 minutes with us. I hope that this will be a lot of fun and that I can demystify this subject for you. I will say that even if you have no intentions of doing any of this yourself, I still think you're going to get something out of this because most businesses are going to hire a professional, a freelancer, an agency of some sort to do these services for them. And the hardest part is managing someone or setting the expectations and then not really understanding how it works. What are the factors that influence SEO? How long should it take? it just becomes very difficult to have a good working relationship with a professional who does it if you don't fully understand SEO. When I say it fully, just understand the components of it and how it works. And that's my goal today, is not so much to teach you how to do it, but to really understand the nuts and bolts of SEO. I think you'll get a lot of really good tips and tricks out of it. However, excuse me, it's going to be the master class where I'm going to show you the how I do a lot of these things, some tactics and some free tools that you can leverage to better analyze your SEO, to better improve your SEO. And it's a lot of fun because there are a lot of ways to do it. But let's jump into it. So I like to ask this question. It's a lot more fun when we're in person, but it's a rhetorical question. Who would like to rank higher organically? And doing so without any advanced SEO skills. And I ask this question because I really do believe that you, without being a marketer, without being an SEO expert, can make an impact, a pretty big positive impact on your online search rankings. And I don't think it's necessarily that difficult. However, it does certainly take some time. We'll talk about some of those things in a little bit. So the first step really here is just understanding the phrase SEO. Now, you may be coming to this workshop and you may say, I don't even know what this means. Totally fair. That's cool. A lot of people don't know. It is a phrase often used to paraphrase search engine optimization. So it's the practice of enhancing a website to rank higher on search engines or search results pages. So if I typed in, best marketing consultant in the Midwest, that would be a SERP, search engine result page. And I don't like to use some of these keywords, this jargon so often because most people, even marketers, may not even know what that means. But it's important here that we can demystify some of that stuff. But this process, or some people would call it the art of SEO, aims to boost your website's visibility. Because so often, most of us, if we're not on the first 2 pages of Google, we are not visible. And you've heard this joke, and I almost hate to say it because I've heard it so many times. People say, well, where do you hide a dead body? Well, on the second page of Google, right? Because how many people look at the second page, let alone the third page? I mean, just think about that for a moment. Look back to your most recent Google search for something. How many pages did you go deep? I mean, I recently have gone through a few searches where I had to go to page 3. I don't remember the last time I've ever done that, honestly. It's been a long time. But if you can boost the visibility, you're driving more organic traffic. Organic is not paid. So automatically your search engine results are driven upward, which obviously increases conversions. A conversion could be an email sign up, could be a lead, it could be a sale, could be a lot of different things. A reservation, just depends on your business. And SEO ultimately involves on-page as well as off-page optimization. We're going to talk about that coming up in a few slides. The timeline for SEO, this is probably the hardest part for people to get their arms around, is that it varies widely. And it varies widely depending upon how much time, how much money, how many people you have working on it, what is your level of knowledge and expertise. And so often there are companies that sell these services and it's a very minimal, meaning you have to invest in this for 6 months to really see anything. And then there are other companies who can pour a lot of money, meaning a lot of time and resources, and they can get a lot done in the first couple of months and they can accelerate their results. That typically costs a lot more. Most small businesses don't have that kind of budget. So what I like to tell people is that this is a long-term commitment. And when I say long-term, I mean, if you're going to hire a professional or try to do it yourself, you want to give yourself 6 months to see anything significant. But guess what? That is also pretty true in business itself. So whether you're talking about results in creating a TikTok page or results in generating leads through social media or building a new website, you shouldn't expect a whole lot in the first 2 months. We can't flip a switch. That's not proactive marketing. That's being reactive, and that's just not how things work. So we need to take a long outlook on this, make an investment where we should start to see results in maybe 4 or 5 months and then see significant results in 5 or 6 months. But ultimately what we do is we provide the service, we analyze, we adjust, and we continue to analyze and adjust and improve that strategy to get to page one. And by the way, once you get there, you can't stop because other people are trying to outrank you. So it's very much an ongoing thing that when you invest in, you want to continue to invest in, and you want to continue to refine and hone in on those skills. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, so what are your options? Well, we're not going to be able to get into all of them, but we're going to talk about all of it in the masterclass. So number one is you can learn SEO. I think you should learn a little bit, at least the basics of SEO, which we'll talk a lot about those in this class today. You can pay an agency or a professional of some sort. There are a lot of different websites out there. If you just Google SEO services, I mean, literally you'll come up with tens of thousands of organizations who do this. Not all are equal, unfortunately. There are some that do things what we call black hat and white hat. Black hat would be unethical ways of getting traffic. And if Google or DuckDuckGo or one of these platforms finds out, they could potentially ban your website, which you obviously don't want, or they could suppress your search results, which you obviously don't want. And so you have to do some due diligence there, which is why I think it's important to learn about how this stuff works. Number three, you can run ads. That's another way to boost your website and your brand's visibility online. But again, over a course of a couple of months, you're going to spend just as much time doing that as you are in SEO. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have a good dedicated marketing budget, you'd probably want to do a little bit of both. And then number four, you have some non-traditional SEO options, which we are going to talk about today, which I think are a lot of fun. And then number five, you can do all of the above. In a perfect world, which we do not live in, I would recommend number five. When people say, Chris, what should I do? You said this, that, or is the other thing. Ultimately, you want to make sure that you do have skills and knowledge around this topic because does change quite frequently. Number two, at some point, you're going to say, I don't know that my time is best spent doing this. So you either hire someone to work in the company, or you hire an external third party who can help elevate your search results. I think every organization should be running ads some way, shape, or form. They can be very beneficial. And then the non-traditional stuff, which is good too. So if you want to invest in SEO, what is the first step? That's typically the question I like to ask. And let's jump into what that first step would be. Number one would be an audit. And the reason why it's an audit is that so many people want to jump into making changes to their website. They want to jump into taking all this action when, even if we were talking about a marketing strategy, you can't jump in and say, well, I'm just going to start posting videos, or I'm just going to start a TikTok channel. If it's not driven by a strategy, it's not likely to be very effective. But even before the strategy, you need to create an audit so that you know what goes into the strategy. And without an audit, you really don't understand how is the website performing? What is the health and speed of the website? What are the factors that are helping or preventing our website from getting where we want it to be? What does the competitive landscape look like? There are dozens and dozens of factors that go into this. So an audit is really a comprehensive analysis of everything that impacts your website's visibility in search engines. And in some cases, it's not just the website. It could be your Facebook page. It could be your Google business profile. It could be your YouTube profile or your podcast. A lot of things. You don't just want your website to rank. You want all of your online profiles to rank well. And this process will identify the issues that may be hindering. And it's more than just your on-page and off-page SEO. Could be your user experience. Could be a lot of things, which we're going to talk about coming up. And they're ultimately critical for understanding why your site is not generating the traffic you think it should be, and why your conversions or sales are not improving. Now, for example, I've seen many businesses run ad campaigns spending thousands of dollars a month to be driven to a crappy website that does not perform, that does not convert, that does not communicate properly what the business does or how they're different, only to see that money wasted because the website was not in a position that was going to generate leads. So if your website is in a good position, it should convert for you. All you have to do is generate more traffic there. And so this will help you understand where those efforts should be utilized. So let's talk about that. We've got the technical stuff. So the technical includes things like website speed, mobile friendliness, security, crawlability, which means, can Google see all the different pages in your website? Are there 404 errors, like broken links on your website? This is really important stuff. And I would say that this at the core is the nuts and bolts of SEO, traditional, tried and true SEO. Now, you also have what's called on-page SEO. This historically for the last 20 years are things that I would do to try to improve the, we'll call it performance and speed and user interface, the user experience that we provide the visitor. And this evaluates pages such as internal keyword linkage, which goes overlooked but is very important. Content quality, which believe it or not, Google can see the quality of the images. This could be a lot of different things. Meta tags, search engine rankings are really a big part of that is what you tell Google your website or your web pages are about. So the average website has about 7 to 8 pages, and you may have an about page. And if you don't have tags and meta titles and meta descriptions, all Google knows is it's your pizzeria about page. Now, you don't just want your website to rank, you want all the pages in your website to rank. And you want people to get onto your page and then be able to get to other pages without having to do a lot of scrolling. And so this is where on-page SEO comes in. It is really important to help people get from point A to point B. And then your off-page stuff are maybe things that get a little overlooked by the average non-marketer and maybe a little bit more difficult, like the backlinks. So when Google looks at, the top 10 pizzerias in your area, they're going to look at things like popularity, website traffic, reviews, backlinks, Google Business Profile, links and maps. And the more information they have about things like social media influence determines what website gets ranked over the other. And it is a bit of a popularity contest, which is why we need more incoming links. We need more social media chatter. We need more reviews. We need an updated Google Business Profile. We need up-to-date hours of operation and things like that. So this is really where an agency can help you tremendously, because building backlinks can be a little bit more difficult. And so very much a combination where there's not necessarily one of these that is more important. It's just that they're all equally important here in the process. And then finally, we have the user experience. Now, for the average person, even the average marketer and entrepreneur, probably this one gets overlooked the most, because it is really hard for you, the business owner, the entrepreneur, to put yourself in the shoes of the website visitor. And why that is the case is because we are not often our target customer. So it's really hard for us to think like a customer if we're not the target customer. So what influences the customer's experience on the website? And this is a bit subjective as much as it could be objective. So these are reviews. So if we're showing, let's say, testimonials and reviews on your website, that certainly enhances the user experience. They feel like you're a credible business. Also, we talk about navigation. If the navigation is very clean and simple, that is helpful. Because we don't want people to leave the website. If you've got 15 different tabs on your main navigation and so many sublinks below that, it's very overwhelming. Now you might say, well, Chris, I've got all this wonderful information and this is so great. Well, it's actually not. Less is more when it comes to marketing. The more information you give people, the confused mind says no and they leave. People want the least amount of information, but they want it very concise. And the most powerful messages in marketing are concise. So if there are more tabs you have, you can hide them in the footer. But we want to provide a very simple, clear, and clean experience for the user. That includes things like not using too many colors, not using different color fonts, not photos. We want to make the experience for the user very clean, and we want to give them a very professional first exposure to our business so that they want to stick around and they want to read more. And so there's a lot that goes into user experience. We're going to talk about that a little bit more coming up. So we talk about some of the technical stuff. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about the hierarchy structure. And so let's get crystal clear on that. So when you go to a home page, oftentimes you have 3 or 4 tabs at the top. Some businesses have a lot more, as I mentioned. What I don't want to see is I don't want to see 3 or 4 levels of drop-down tabs. That can be very cumbersome to navigate from one page to another. And so often it makes it very challenging to navigate. You end up on the 6th page of the website and you can't get back to the previous page, or you have to click back to get to where you want to go. We want to make sure that there's a very clean and simple structure to the website. And so often we can hide some of those pages that are not important in the footer of the website, or we can use internal links to help people get to those pages. But we don't want to take people away from getting to a possible conversion by taking them to a page that's really not that important. Now, descriptive URLs are another one. So often people will build a site and it's like ourcompany.com/history or ourcompany.com/blog. Those can be okay, but they're very non-descriptive URLs. So if it is a blog, make sure that this particular blog post is about, Caitlin Clark's experience in the WNBA or whatever it might be, or how to make the best pizza. It needs to be descriptive, again, because we need to give Google more information about what this page, that's the landing page, is about. And just being about isn't enough. Also, the breadcrumb navigation is another one that I would say a lot of people just don't understand. And we want to make sure that we have the right tabs or the right pages under the right tabs. So when we talk about the navigation of going from one page to another, do you have your tabs in the right place? Do you have sublinks in the right spot? Or is it just kind of an endless list of navigation? A sitemap is another one, and that's a bit like having a roadmap from destination from point A to point B. This is ultimately just a map that is attached to your website that most of us don't ever see, that just says, Google, hey, my website has 15 different pages. Here's the navigation structure of the website, and here's what you should be looking for. Because again, we don't just want our website to rank in Google, we want our website and all of its pages or landing pages to rank as well. And so if you don't have a sitemap, it is possible that not all of your pages will be indexed by search engines. I mentioned internal linking already, and that's just something where, again, we want to get people on our site. We want to get them to stay on the site, which means we need to get them to consume content on multiple pages. And rather than people having to scroll all the way back up to the top to have to get to another page, we want to provide internal links to help them get from point A to point B and B to C, if and when those things are relevant. So some of the pages like Wikipedia is the best example of internal linking. Every single page on Wikipedia has multiple, when I say multiple, I mean dozens of internal links to other pages of things that are relevant. And that's a good way that people stay. That is the number one reason people stay on Wikipedia. Also, broken links. Google will definitely, and any search engine will suppress your website for having broken links. And so often we don't even know we have them, because how often do you actually go to your website and review every single page? Most of us don't do it even annually. So we want to make sure that that is clear and clean, because people will leave. If there's a broken link, they'll say, I'm out. And then what? They're going to go to your competition. So I think that there are some things there that are really important. And the last one, which again gets overlooked a little bit from time to time, is being mobile friendly. As much as we are in the year 2024, it's surprising to me sometimes how many websites I go to from my phone that I have to stretch or adjust the page to be able to view properly on my phone. And I'm telling you right now that if your website is not mobile friendly, it will be suppressed in most search engines, because more than 80% of the world's web traffic comes from mobile devices. So all search engines and all social media profiles or platforms want websites that are mobile first. So pull up your website when you're done with this and check it out from a mobile device. All right. People often ask me, Chris, what's one of the most important things I can do to rank better? And what I tell them is website speed. Now, the average person, even the average marketer, has a really hard time enhancing website speed. It's not super easy to do, but it is one of the most important ranking factors. So if you have a web developer that you work with or an agency that's built your website, you want to get a hold of what your speed is. And if it's not performing very well, you need to ask them to fix it. And it is incumbent upon them. If you paid $5,000, $10,000 for a website, you need to say, hey, I expect this to not only perform well, but to also be a healthy website. And so in the masterclass, I'm going to show you some tools as to how you can measure the speed of your website. And if your web developer makes changes, how you can monitor that. There are multiple tools I use for this, but it is in the top 3 most important criteria for ranking within search engines, specifically Google. And it is important because if your website does not load within less than 3 seconds, people will leave and you'll have what's called a high bounce rate. Bounce is considered someone who left the site within less than 3 seconds. So if your bounce rate is a little bit on the higher side, it's because your website's probably slower or may have some issues. It does impact the user experience because users want a fast website. People are impatient these days. And again, because most traffic comes from a mobile device, we need to make sure that it is not just fast for desktop, but it's also fast for mobile. And the tools I'm going to show you will give you a speed for both. And so really important here when it comes to SEO is enhancing the speed. Now, some things that prevent a website from performing at its peak would be video. Video can definitely bog down the speed of a website, although it's still important. Also, keyword research is one that most of us just don't do because we assume we know the right keywords. We're going to talk about this. I have some tools I'm going to share in the masterclass that will specifically help you find the right keywords. And so it's one thing to just say, oh, well, I know the keywords. Well, they should be different on every page of your website because every page of the website is about a different topic or subject. And so there are a lot of tools you can use like Google Keyword Planner and SEMrush to help expand the list of possibilities. Even when we think we know what they should be, sometimes there's a lot of other ones we could be using. And if what you're using right now and your website's not ranking very well, it may be time to hit the refresh button and get some new keywords. Also, what I do is I analyze the competition. I usually find the top 3 best performing websites in my exact competition. And then I go through. I don't copy, but I may take a couple of them. And I try to make sure that if I do take them, they're hyper relevant to what I do or my client does. That is a really good way to make sure or compare, am I on the right page here? And then consider search intent. Search intent is what is the user typing into Google or said search engine to get the result that they want. So again, if you're not the exact demographic, how do you know what they're typing in? The only way to know is to look at competitors and to look at keyword research tools like SEMrush to better understand what is their intent, what is their need, what is the question that they are asking, because it's not always, best bakery in my area or best restaurant in this town. It could be a lot of different things. So we need to do our research to really understand that. And then with it, select a set of keywords. And I'm talking about like 3 to 5. I'm not talking about 20 or 30. And then evaluate, watch it, adjust over time. And I think what you'll find is that there might be some keywords that really help and some that don't move the needle at all. So it's one thing to implement, but again, it's another thing to monitor and adjust over time. So let's move on to some on-page stuff. So this is more on the back end of your website. So not a lot you're going to see on the front end so much, but title tags. So title of a website, a page, let's call it, a landing page. Meta descriptions, this is on the back end. This is for search engines to understand what is the content of this page. Yes, they can read the copy, but they cannot read photos, they cannot read videos. And so if you have a page that is very visual heavy, it is helpful to have meta descriptions on every single page. Keywords, because again, we want to make sure we're showing up when people type in specific key phrases. And then headings. So if I have a longer page that has maybe 5 or 6 sections to it, and this could be a services page where it's like masterclasses, public speaking, book, coaching program. Those could all be H1s, or services could be H1, and then each one of the sub-services could be an H2. Those are headings, just like a subtitle of a book or a secondary subtitle in a book. Think of H1s and H2s, H3s like that. And they're all important because again, it tells the search engines what is on the page. So they're all equally important, but meta tags, meta descriptions, headings, title tags, these are all things you can do to your own website, and you can do them very easily without a lot of training. So often, though, I've seen websites that are built by agencies and none of this stuff is filled out. They just kind of hand over a website that looks beautiful on the front end, but on the back end, there's no SEO done. And to me, there's no point in doing that because what's the point of investing that money in a website that's not going to rank? So I think it's important to go through that and make sure that that's done. We talked about URL structure, making sure that they're very descriptive. Keyword usage, again, we don't want to be stuffing too many keywords onto a page, whether it be on the front end of the copy or on the back end in the meta description or in the title, because that is viewed by search engines as a very spammy tactic. So you don't want to overdo anything. You want to make sure that you're sticking within the guidelines, doing things accurately, because if you use spammy tactics, they will suppress your website, no doubt about it. Internal linking, also very important, not just for the user to navigate, but also for Google, because they know that that is a tactic that allows people to stay on your website for a longer period of time. And the longer they stay, that does help your search rankings, believe it or not. Google looks at a lot of factors as to why they should rank your website over other competitors in the space, and that is a big one. Image optimization, we'll talk a lot about this in the masterclass. So often we want to have visuals on our website, but images and videos bog down the speed of a website. And so there are some different tools and tactics you can use to not only measure the speed, but also ensure that your website is loading quickly. And so there are some optimization tools for images and videos and some coding tricks that you can use to ensure that it doesn't impact negatively the performance of your site. Okay, off-page stuff. Backlinks would be links from like a chamber of commerce, a newspaper, directories, Google Maps, things like that. The more backlinks you have, the better. It used to be more important than it is now, but there's so many factors that it's not as heavily weighted anymore because there were a lot of spammers and black hat tactics that were done in the past to try to get more backlinks. Social signals are still pretty important because they're harder to come by for small businesses, but this could be social media shares, links, likes, reviews. And so basically Google says, oh, well, a lot of people are talking about this brand. It must be good. Let's include that in our ranking factors. Guest blogging. Blogging can be helpful. It's more helpful from an SEO standpoint than it actually is from a user standpoint. People don't like to read blogs. The number one reason that people have them is for ranking factors only. That is my opinion. If you're into blogging, I'm sorry, but that's kind of the cold hard truth these days. I do it, but primarily for ranking factor. Influencer outreach is certainly important if you're working with an influencer some way, shape, or form, or maybe your team is an influencer kind of before you. This can help because, again, the more chatter that revolves around your business, the more reviews, the more shares, the better it's going to be for ranking. Now, again, it's very, very small in terms of the weight or the importance of SEO, but it is a factor nonetheless. And then, like I said, brand mentions, you can certainly use forums and online communities as well as some local SEO. We will talk about that in the masterclass. But those are all the off-page SEO tactics. Now, the user experience I talked about, so I'm going to make this really quick, is we really want to keep users on the website. And so we have to provide a very good first impression, which means the website should be professional, or we should stay away from using stock photos. And so what else do we look at? Well, we look at conversion rate. Well, how do we get people to take an action? More clicks, email signups, watching a video, anything it might be. Those are conversions, and we need to be able to drive those up a little higher. So being consistent with our usage of fonts and colors and making sure the website's clean will all enhance that user experience. And again, we'll talk a lot about this in the masterclass. Excuse me. Here are some best practices. We'll talk about above the fold, what that means, but essentially we're talking about simplicity, consistency, limited use of colors. I prefer white background to black background. Some people are like, hey, whatever. But also, we don't want to be using 18 different colors or 6 different fonts. It just really muddies the waters and makes it more difficult to read and see. Typography is important. Choose a font or two and stick with it. Load time we talked about. Easy navigation we talked about. Less is more with copy, believe it or not. Just stuffing your website with endless amounts of copy is not going to be very helpful. And then having some call to action buttons. What do you want people to do? Do you want them to book your Calendly account and book some time with you? Or is it a sale? Is it an email sign up? Get crystal clear on one or two calls to action and stick with them. Don't have 15 calls to action because people will take no action at all then. And so these are some really good best practices. If you ask for everything, you'll get nothing. If you ask for one thing, you're more likely to get it. All right, let's talk about the non-traditional stuff before we wrap this up. And I got a little long-winded in the beginning, so I'm going to make this quick. But the most valuable stuff we're going to talk about here in the masterclass. Number one is YouTube. Believe it or not, YouTube is, in my eyes, the number one website in the world. YouTube is the destination. Google is a taxi cab. People get in Google and they go from point A to point B very quickly. And they go to places like YouTube. YouTube is the number one website in the world as it relates to time spent on platform, which means it has the most attention. Therefore, it is the most powerful, in my professional opinion. Number two is most videos rank in Google searches. So as you see in this example to the right, how to fix my website ranking, why wouldn't you want to show up when people are searching for you? And you can see a lot of these videos have a lot of engagement. And so 31% of marketers add video to improve their SEO. That is a very easy non-traditional SEO option to advance and improve your search rankings and your visibility. Google Business Profile is really key. This is one of my small businesses here in town. And it is basically a profile that you get on Google. You can choose to have one or not. It gives you a map. It gives you the ability to post videos and pictures. It is essentially a social media tool / platform. You can message people, you can buy, you can make reservations, you can get a clickable phone number. There are so many things you can do with Google Business Profile that you'd be crazy not to have one, especially if you're a local business that offers local services. And so this would be one thing that I would highly encourage, and I do encourage clients to jump into. Number two, continuing, is just kind of a journey of what it looks like. See, if you type in best coffee shop, you get these options. You can click on the one that you want. You can place an order through Google Business Profile. You can look at photos. You can upload a menu if you're a restaurant or coffee shop. You can look at events. You can buy products. There's nothing you can't do. It's like a social media website meets a website. It's kind of cool. And number three is a podcast. Podcasts are searchable in Google and other search platforms. They also tend to show up if you upload them in Google, which means they also show, in YouTube, which means they also show up in Google. And they can be great for really building trust and authority with your audience. So whether you have a traditional one or you just meet people on Zoom and upload the content to YouTube, this is a great tool for a multitude of reasons. And these would be three ways that I think you can massively improve your visibility online. And then certainly this gives you a lot of social media content as well. The fourth and final one is you can take that video or that podcast and you can turn it into a newsletter if you want. Excuse me, fighting some allergies over here. And then finally, you can take your blog and you can turn it into a LinkedIn newsletter, which also ranks in Google. So often when I'm typing in search queries in Google for something related to marketing, I'm ending up reading a LinkedIn newsletter that somebody produced. And I've been pretty lucky that over the last year or so, I've had 1,300 subscribers. It's not a lot, but it gives me direct access to their inbox because every time I publish one, it goes directly to their email. And so you get a notification on the platform, you get an email, you get SEO juice. There's a lot of good things to like about having a LinkedIn newsletter. I think if you did those four things only, you would see, I'm going to say, possibly a 20% jump in your website traffic just from doing those things. Now, it's not just flipping a switch and doing them, it's getting invested into doing these things consistently because none of this is a one-time thing. It's a continuous effort, and it should be something that you continue to refine and hone in on. These are some best practices, most of which I already talked about. This is getting really descriptive here in your URL. This is having a secure site, having that HTTPS where you get the lock there. That is a big part of Google ranking because they don't want to drive people to a website that's not secure and safe for their users. And so we'll talk more about some of this stuff in the master class, but there are a lot more best practices that I can show you that you can take to your website developer and have them fix or improve. And every little thing helps, whether it's 2% here, 3% there, that could be the difference in 100 new web visitors next month, which could be 1 or 2 leads. And so that's it. Just want to wrap it up on that note. Probably spent a little bit more time than I wanted to talking about some things, but it's a fun topic and there's a lot of different ways you can go. But I also want to leave enough time for Q&A for everyone because I know that there's going to be a lot of questions.